PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.
Hello and welcome to PharmaVentures Insights here on Helix in Cambridge 2017. Antimicrobial resistance is an acknowledged and growing problem globally, and more needs to happen and to be done about it to encourage innovation. There have been no new antibiotics for 30 or 40 years. Joining me on today's show is Dr. Peter Jackson, Executive Director of the AMR Centre. Peter, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So, just highlighted the problem there, antimicrobial resistance, a big and growing problem. We see items in the popular press every day almost now. What's the AMR Centre and why was it set up?
Okay, around 2 years ago we were visited by various government ministers preparing for the O'Neill Review, which was fundamental in highlighting to the public and to the wider world the importance of AMR and just what the impact of that was going to be. After those visits we were asked by various government ministers to come up with a proposal how we might address the threat and more importantly address some of the gaps that are in the UK infrastructure to develop new antibiotics that are needed. Now, O'Neill was really important because he highlighted that AMR, if untreated, will kill more patients than cancer by 2050. And because he's an economist, he could also bring finance ministers into the debate as well as health ministers or science ministers. And he highlighted that the impact on the global economy by 2050 would be over $100 trillion. Which is a scary amount of money, and that will be 3.5% of the global economy if we don't do anything to address the impact of antimicrobial resistance, antibiotics not working, patients dying from previously well-treatable diseases.
So what are we doing? There's the problem. You highlighted it there. The WHO actually came out and said This is a big issue, so it's on the same level as climate change in terms of a global issue. What are we doing?
So. The analysis has been done, the politics has been done, the diplomacy has been done, unprecedented support from the United Nations General Assembly last year, great support from the G20 health ministers and from the G20 that's just finished now, all agreeing that more action needs to be done on AMR. So, translate the policy into action, that's why we're here.
Okay, because words are one thing, actions are another, and I hear the words, but what's coming?
Absolutely. So we established AMR Centre in an administrative capacity a year ago, and we've been working to put a infrastructure in place based across the north of England, using the existing capacity and capability from the old AstraZeneca site at Alderley Park, as well as partnering with other partner organisations in the north, across the northwest and the north of England, and including access to the health services clinical trial capability. So under our umbrella we have National Health Service organisations, universities, local authorities. It truly is a public-private partnership. So from next week we will be starting lab operations. We have chemistry, biology, and support services to develop preclinical data packages on behalf of our partner organisations. So we work with SMEs, research institutes, mid-sized pharma to help put together a compelling fast-track package to get their early ideas through into early clinical trials. And the really exciting piece of this is that a year ago we successfully bid as part of a consortium with other international members for access to US government funding, $250 million of US government funding through BARDA, part of the US government. It was recommended that we put a consortium of 5 of us got together, so BARDA, NIAID, the research institute in US backed by the government, and the Wellcome Trust together have put $450 million into supporting programs over the next 5 years. And then also part of the network ourselves as an alliance partner for CARB-X, and the CLSI, California Life Science Institute, and MassBio and a Boston hub representing the preeminent West Coast and East Coast accelerators in the US. So really an unrivaled international transatlantic partnership to provide considerable amount of funding and doing capability to really transform the landscape in the development of new antibiotics.
Right, so politics is done, as you said earlier, funding's in place, the collaborations are all knitted together, you've got infrastructure and labs to do actually wet biology and chemistry, all there now, and sounds fantastic. And so you're going to be developing new entities along with your partners, as you said. That addresses one part of the problem, which was actually research being done, and getting things into the clinic. What about the other end? Because part of the problem with antibiotics has always been you treat people and cure them, and so you don't get to treat them for very long. So either you have to charge a lot of money for the antibiotic to make the economics work, which in areas where there are infectious diseases maybe isn't sustainable or even possible, or you've got to give them the medicines chronically, and you're not going to give them chronically because of the nature of the. So, do you have any feel for what's happening at that other end of the scale? Is there pressure being applied to anywhere to make that happen?
Okay, well, very clearly our remit and the Carbex remit is to reinvigorate the pipeline of new antibiotics. Critical to that is also leveraging in private sector finance and bringing big pharma companies back into the sector. And critical to that is reinvigorating the reward mechanisms at the end.
Right.
So, as AMR develops, we'll see more patients receiving serious infections from what are now routine medical operations. So, replacement knees, hips, C-sections and so on. So this is really going to impact on all different areas of medicine. So we shouldn't just think of it as an infection problem.
Right.
It's a whole healthcare system problem. So we need the payers, the people at the end who are going to pay for this stuff, to recognise the value of an effective treatment compared with, let's say, 4 weeks on an intensive care unit.
Right.
Which could cost $25,000 to $40,000. So these new antibiotics that are perhaps the last line of defence, they need to command appropriate pricing in order to be able to justify the amount of effort and research that goes into that. Alternatively, the O'Neill report and others have called for a delinkage mechanism, because in certain cases we might need to invent new antibiotics and never use them. We want to keep them on the shelf for the day that comes when there is only one left, and we don't want the bugs already to be resistant to that material.
So where's my incentive to do that?
So delinkage, tricky problem. A lot of thought going into this at the moment. O'Neill called for $1 to $2 billion as a reward for an international body, perhaps to reward the developer for getting it there and then to put it in reserve. Where that's going to come from is a bigger challenge, a big challenge for international politics and international diplomacy. But I suspect that one or two nations may take the lead with local solutions for that.
It has to get solved because the enormity of the problem is the scale of it is unimaginable almost. So it does. Are those dialogues with the payers, are they happening now? Are people trying to solve this problem now at the far end?
They are. It's not a dialogue that we're
you're
directly
the
involved
other
in. I mean, our funders and our investors are really taking a leap of faith in that a solution will be found for the who pays and who buys. But fundamentally, we know there will be patients and they will need these treatments because antibiotic resistance is rising. It's already at extremely high levels in Southern Europe and some Asian countries, and you can see in the year-to-year modelling the wave of resistance that's heading towards Northern Europe and North America. So in some ways or another, it's a leap of faith, but we know for sure that patients will want treating and someone will need to pay for that.
And just coming back to your end of the scale, you said $250 million going into this from the various organisations. Is that enough? Should it be $1 billion? Should it be $5 billion?
Well, it's $250 million from the US government, from BARDA, plus $150 million from the Wellcome Trust. So there's $400 million there, which is a substantial down payment.
I agree, but is it enough?
Okay.
Should we be spending more?
The G20 communique that's just come out is encouraging other countries, other voluntary funders and other private sector funders to get involved. It's not enough. What we're doing will probably support 1 or possibly 2 new antibiotics, but of course we need many more than that, and we need it over many more years than just the next 5 years.
Okay, well we'll hope to see that replicate and more money coming in to solve this particularly tricky and urgent problem.
Absolutely, that will need to happen.
Pete, many thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
For more information about PharmaVentures, visit our website